I just love the fact that your Zoom name is Evil Hag. I feel like that's what the pandemic has turned me into.
I've been an evil hag my whole life. Welcome to the club.
I'm
Isn't it
so honored to
nice?
be in the club. Huge congratulations on Black Bear. Your performance in this is incredible. During in the film, Bree thinks that Alison's really different to how she appears on screen. And I was wondering, do fans ever assume that you're like a certain character that you've played? And are they ever shocked when they realize that you're not?
I mean, absolutely. I think, one of the biggest things about my, trajectory is like that people really heavily associate me with my characters and especially April Ludgate and, the early on parts that I've had, I think people think that I'm just, like exactly like that. And I am. But I'm also other things, and I don't know. I think I don't really like show every side of me, so people wouldn't know. People just wouldn't know, but they would be shocked to find out what I do in my personal time. Oh, yes, they would. God, I'm so boring. I do nothing interesting at all.
I don't believe that. I really don't. Where's the weirdest place you have been spotted, though?
That's a really good idea. Well, I was spotted attacking that giant Jeff Goldblum statue in London underneath of the bridge. I do remember that. And I was spotted. I think I was like hanging onto his giant nipple.
As you
That was
do.
that was a weird one. I've been many weird places.
Have you ever
So
been mistaken for anyone?
there was a time I think when Parks and Rec was on the air, a lot of times people would come up to me and go, "Oh my God, I love you in Community." And I'd be like, "I love me in Community too. God, my work in Community is just so brilliant." But I think that was more like they were getting the shows mixed up, but I don't know.
You just
Maybe
go along with it.
I just go along with it.
I'm a really big Lady Gaga fan, and I've seen a lot of people say that you look like her before she was
See?
famous, and I can kind of see it. Yeah,
Great, I'll take that.
there's a big
Take
Stephanie Germanotta resemblance there.
Oof, man, I love her. I've never met her before, but I love that. I love
Yeah.
that one. I figured if I never learned how to cook, then I would never become a housewife.
You're really hard to read.
Yeah, you know what? I get that all the time.
This film really captures an indie film set, and I imagine how intense it can get. What's the most memorable film set you've been a part of before?
Oh man, I've been so lucky. I've been on so many interesting sets and I would say God, it's hard to choose. I mean, especially, but I would say like just memorable memory wise, like Parks and Rec, the set on Parks and Rec, just because it went on for, 7 years, like that is a big one for me. And just in terms of my history of making things, like that set is very memorable. It's just a constant kind of lingering, heartache that I have thinking about how fun it was and how everybody was just so great. And so that was just, I'll never forget that, no matter how old and haggish I become.
And evil. Do you have like a personal favorite memory from Parks and Recs and being on set, like a favorite episode or something crazy that maybe once happened?
I think because we were all so like in love with our characters and in love with each other, like the episode where Andy and April get married was really memorable because it almost felt like it was really happening. Like I'm pretty sure Amy really cried. Like it was like she was forgetting that April and Andy weren't real or something. It was just I don't know. There was just something about that day that felt, when you go to a wedding and you just have that feeling where it's like there's just this very sensitive, everyone's kind of like at a heightened emotional kind of state. And for some reason, all day that day, it felt like that. It felt like we were at a real wedding or we were going to a real wedding. And I just had to keep going, like, I'm playing a character. We're not getting married for real. But then I think I cried.
Like,
It's
I'm
very,
not okay. I can't believe it's been 12 years.
oh, I know. God, I'm so old. Fuck. What's happened to me?
It's just crazy. And because this film is a film within a film, if you could splice yourself into any movie, which one would it be?
I mean, look, keeping with the Lady Gaga thing, A Star is Born. I would have loved to just be a fly on the wall in that opening drag queen La Vie en Rose sequence. Best 30 minutes opening of a movie I've seen in long time. That would be a really fun one.
I've still not emotionally recovered from A Star is Born.
Neither. God, I cried so much. Cried tears in the theater.
Very,
Saw,
very real
saw
tears.
it twice.
This is what you wanted, okay? This was going to ruin us. Okay, cut.
And the whole making of Black Bear really interferes with the characters in this. There's loads of blurred lines there. Is there a role you've played before that's been particularly hard to shake off?
I would say, like, before this, I would say Ingrid Goes West was kind of, I would say one of the first times that I've ever, you know, walked off a set, wrapped the movie, and for days after, just, I would have these moments where I would just be in my car, like going to dinner or just trying to get back to normal life, and I would just start crying because I would just for the character and for the experience and because you hang on so tight to these characters.
I'm not a psychopath.
I own you.
I just want to be her friend. Are you actually insane?
You really feel like you went through something with them, and it's so when you are doing something that's so painful and that it is really hard to shake off. But Black Bear really topped that one for me. I think that was on another level because I think the film was just so personal for me and so much inspired by real things and real events and stuff that I felt it was a hard one. That was a hard one to shake off, probably more so.
I felt exhausted for you in it.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
really did. And everyone's obviously been spending so much more time at home during the pandemic. Are there any shows you've been watching that you're now completely obsessed with?
I'm so behind, and I will tell you how behind I am. I've the only show that I binge watched was 6 Feet Under, which is, from the early 2000s. God, it was like when I was in high school. And it was it's like just one of those shows that you're always like, someday I'm gonna watch that entire series, like The Sopranos or The Wire or whatever. And 6 Feet Under has always been one of those shows where I'm like, I'm going to commit and watch all of these seasons. And I did. And man, what a delight. But I know no one cares about it, me talking about it, because it was so long ago. And other than that, I was like on the pandemic train with everybody watching The Last Dance. That documentary was so good. And I May Destroy You, so good. And I kept up with some of the cool, new things, but mostly I just watched 6 Feet Under and cried.
So you're not alone.
Okay,
There are
I'm
people
gonna
that
get on
still
the
care.
boards.
Maybe you should like create a whole like movement and come together just to
Yes,
discuss it today and the importance.
I will. Honestly, it holds up. I mean, and it's before its time. I mean, the stuff they're dealing with in that. I'm like, hello, we're still dealing with the same issues 20 years later. Something's wrong here.